Good morning, and welcome to the Lone Star Weekly Business Hour. Your host, Rick Schissler, is a Silver Fox advisor who personally has over 40 years of experience as a serial entrepreneur. So sit back, pull out your pad and pencil, and get ready to take notes as we join Rick Schissler in his Lone Star Weekly Business Hour.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor. Welcome you to the Weekly Business Hour. We have a wonderful show, here for this morning. But first, before we get into the show, I'd like to thank our sponsors, the Silver Fox Advisors. Silver Fox Advisors are businessmen and women who completed successful careers in corporate America or as entrepreneurs and small business people. And as Silver Fox Advisors, they share their knowledge, experience, and skills, thus allowing their business clients to improve their growth and profitability in a cost-effective manner. If you need a business mentor or consultant, not quite sure what to do with your business, how to make it grow or increase your profits, then I recommend you do one of two things. Either go to the website at www.silverfoxadvisors.org or contact me directly if you'd like at 713-343-3718. And now, Dick, what's going on at Lone Star this week?
One thing that is happening this week, and it's new for Montgomery County, is the auditions for Montgomery County's Got Talent put on by the Montgomery County Performing Arts Society. They're hosting their first round of auditions this Friday, February 27th from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the Conroe Chamber of Commerce in downtown Conroe.
Well, that's an exciting thing to happen. I say, the music scene, if you will, music and arts is really growing in Montgomery County. And here's another opportunity for those out there that want to be involved to get involved. So I would encourage all our listeners to come on out if you've got some talent. Thanks, Dick. And now we'll move on to our guest. Melanie Bush is with us today. Melanie, I appreciate you joining. She's the president of Better Bookkeepers, Inc. Melanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Melanie has got quite a business story, and I want to jump right in and start utilizing her talent and experience to educate you. And perhaps if you need a good bookkeeper, you'll get a chance to evaluate just exactly what Melanie offers. But first, before we do that, I want to move on to business tips and news. Today, I'd like to talk about a tip, and it's, as you know, if you're a regular listener to the show, a big thing for me, and that's work-life balance. I think that's critical for any small business owner, particularly entrepreneurs, whether you're married, have a family, but we all have other commitments, and we have to balance our work and those other commitments out, particularly if we have family and children that need our attention. And there's an article I came across that was written by Max Jones. Max is a regular poster on LinkedIn, and I am connected to him and read his articles. And this one was pretty straightforward and simple, and it was entitled 3 Tips to Achieve Work-Life Balance When Owning a Business. And the first tip Max gives, and again, these are common sense things, but they're, if nothing else, are great reminders. And that first is to unplug. With all the technology around us today, right? And it just keeps increasing. Melanie, I mean, it's just amazing the kind of things that we can stay connected. I have a wife that has an iPad. I almost think it's attached to her now, but she gets Facebook with her grandchildren. So that's a real important lifeline for her. So, but it's important, as Max points out, that sometimes we just have to put it on a do not disturb mode, is what he calls, and back away and pay attention to the other things in our life. Is that a problem for you in working outside the business or building a great business as you've done?
I think it's a problem for everybody. I think that moms that work outside of the home or inside the home, we all struggle with unplugging from technology. I think that, my husband struggles with unplugging from technology. So we try him real hard during the dinner time hour, especially. Those phones stay far away from the dinner table, and we are focused on the kids and talking about the day and what's going on. I actually pick the girls up from school 2 days a week, and so that time from when I get them until they go to bed, I do everything in my power not to pay attention to my phone or to emails and to focus in on them. This is precious time that I won't get back.
Well, that's an important point you make. That time never comes back to us. And each moment, as someone who had 6 children and a number of grandchildren, I lose count sometimes, every minute is blessed. Took one of my grandsons for a haircut on Saturday, and I really enjoy doing that. But if you're tied to the phone or tied to your email or tied to any of the technology, it'll just damage those relationships. And like you say, they never come back.
No, and it's a struggle. It's a daily struggle. And there are some times where you have to take care of something that's high priority, but the girls understand when I have to do that it must be really important.
Well, and one of the things I've done that I've tried to teach myself, because I stay connected to my clients, I stay connected to events that might impact their businesses as a business advisor, is particularly email. I picked up that tip a long time ago, and you keep seeing it only 2 or 3 times a day. I schedule email times. Don't always adhere exactly, but the point is I set aside time to do emails, to read, to respond.
Yes.
And if there's things there, articles that I want to read, I set them aside. And then on the weekends particularly, I'll pull those up and read those articles and so on and so forth. That's been the biggest boost I've found.
Agreed.
Is setting aside time like you do for your daughters twice a week. And a lot of folks, it's not hard to schedule.
No.
Right? And you got to do it. And some people hate to do that. The next thing Max mentioned, it's kind of interesting, kind of controversial too, because I talked to this to some friends, and he calls it stop being a perfectionist. And people say, well, wait a minute, I'm running a business. I want to be the best. I'm pushing. I'm at 95%. I'm trying to get to 100%. I might argue with you as a business advisor, you never can get to 100, but yes, you need to keep pushing. But what he's making the point is don't push on everything. Everything in your business can't be perfect. Pick and choose the things that you really need to excel in, and do the other things well. You and I were talking earlier about the bookkeeping. A lot of businesses don't really want to, or the business owners don't want to deal with the bookkeeping, and you've got a great business that you've built on taking that over.
Exactly. I've always heard you hire for your weaknesses, so you focus where you're strongest and you hire for where you're weakest, and that's something that I've taken to heart. I know that I'm weaker in certain areas in my business, and so I've hired staff to help with that. So,
well, I think you're right on, and I think outsourcing is what's become the popular name. And so it goes beyond being a perfectionist. It means, to me, evaluate. You only got so much time,
yes.
And then, of course, you've got an option, one of several, outsource it, and let somebody else take care of it who might be really, really good.
Exactly.
Let them be the perfectionist, right?
Exactly.
And you got to be perfect with the numbers, don't you?
You got to have good numbers regardless.
For a lot of good reasons.
Yes.
And the last thing that Max says, which you touched on it with your own personal situation, is set boundaries. Identifying what's important in your life and really identify that. And again, many businesses, and this kind of gets into another thing, one of my core competencies, if you will, is planning the business. Well, you've got to step back and look at your life.
Yeah.
And you've got to say, okay, this is what's important. Again, it's not just family sometimes. It might be your religion. It might be the fact that you need to unwind. Some people can work around the clock for so long, but then they've got to pull back because we all cross a line where we're really going to be ineffective, or as our minister said in church yesterday, when I get tired, I get cranky. Well, that's an indication
Yes.
of I've gone too far. I need to back up and refresh.
Exactly. And my husband and I really try hard to set those boundaries in business, but also in our personal life. Volunteer activities and outside activities can creep in as well. And it's amazing how you've got to set boundaries on those. Everything that you're working towards is great in an ideal world, but too much of any one thing throws the entire balance off. So setting those boundaries for everything.
Well, like I think you're alluding to, it really is truly a balance. And it does require attention. You can't ignore it. You've got to work on it.
Yep.
And it's, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't take a lot of time. That's what gets me sometimes when I find people that are completely out of whack. And it can be the other way. They're not paying enough attention to your business. I've had people come to me and say, I'm in trouble. I did well. I was successful. And I started acting like it too much and didn't pay attention to things, and now they've gotten away. Can you help me get them back and get the business back on track?
Agreed.
So it's an important thing. And so as Max concludes, he says, taking steps toward business ownership doesn't mean you'll be completely free of work, but it means loving what you do again, or taking the time to enjoy your life at work, home, and beyond. And so you got to put the mix together. You got to put together what works for you, because everybody is a little bit different. We're all human beings, and we're all a little bit different. But you do have to pay some attention to it.
Agreed.
Well, Melanie, I appreciate your comments. Let's kind of jump in a little bit into some of the things you do. And I want to bring these first two up, and people say, now, where's he coming with that? I was looking at your website, and we talked a little bit before the show that I think you have a great website that communicated what you did. But I noticed a couple of things on there that really grabbed my attention that I normally wouldn't see from bookkeepers. One is you had a a tab for elder care.
Yes.
And I thought that was unique. In fact, I wanted to put that on the top of your website because my wife and I have been dealing. Her dad has lived with us. He just passed, but for 6 years. So I've become to understand that part of life. Of course, he had someone, my wife, to do it, but a lot of people. How did you come up with a specialty in elder care?
Actually helping other families. I've done this contract bookkeeping and bookkeeping for almost 15 years now myself, and then previous to that I was helping my mom's business, and she's an accountant. And so one of our main clients were people that were caring for their aging parents, and we would end up taking care of their parents' books. And so it worked out. When you have personal finances and you're not able to manage it, you're busy running them to doctor's appointments or taking care of their physical needs that need to happen. You're not able to pay as much attention to the financial. And so that has just grown and developed.
Well, I think that's an important thing. And again, this is kind of off the business track, but people, again, I've been in a situation the last 6 years and worked with my father as well before he passed, and work now with my mom. But the fact that a lot of times our parents may not be close by, and I've actually talked to people who have engaged someone in the town or city where their parent was, and their parent didn't want to move.
Yep.
They wanted to stay there, but they found somebody that was trustworthy just to pay the bills and take care of this. We're not talking, ladies and gentlemen, about somebody who owns a business. We're talking about a personal situation.
Exactly. Well, and we do a lot of that where we have view-only access to the bank account to where we don't have actual access to the money. And so we'll let them know what bills are coming up, and they'll go on through bill pay and pay them. And that's what puts those safeguards in place to where you're not getting ripped off by somebody taking care of it.
But yet you're taking care and taking that
Exactly.
load off. And I think that's a wonderful service. The other thing I noticed, and this is more business oriented, but something I've always worked in business, is you offer internal control evaluation.
Yes.
And again, I've not seen a lot of bookkeepers. They may, but they don't put it out there or advertise it. And I think it's an important function.
It is.
And even having a third party, if you will, come in. I may have a good bookkeeper, but to have somebody from time to time to come in to look at my controls or look at my situation. How did you get into that?
Finding fraud,
Okay.
honestly, from businesses that have had internal bookkeepers. And it's real easy when bookkeeping is not something you want to do. You're very good at your business and growing it, that you want to take that step and give it to somebody else to handle, and you don't keep a hand on it as much. You don't keep an eye looking over. And I had one client who was given pay stubs to approve before payroll was actually submitted, and then when the bookkeeper would go in to submit her payroll, she would alter her time after it had been approved, alter her deductions, so her health insurance that was supposed to be taken out suddenly wasn't, and ended up taking quite a bit of money from this one client. And so that has started us really emphasizing the procedures and going in-house and looking at, not everybody needs an outsourced bookkeeper. They have an internal, but making sure things are going correctly. We also do a lot of quarterly reviews with that. And so we'll go in and see how the books are running once a quarter and make sure that everything's still running smooth.
Well, you mentioned that quarterly, and that is something I've seen and encourage businesses. I encourage them to use outside advisors. You and I talked about it. And here you're coming in, even when there's a bookkeeper on site, which a little larger business has that function. In an admin capacity sometimes, and I think that's a great service and something that stuck out to me. And I would encourage anyone that has an in-house bookkeeper that doesn't have some kind of review take place, other than just turning the books over to an accountant to do a CPA or do an annual tax return, or a CPA type thing of financial, that you have this kind of thing done.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our smaller businesses think, oh, well, my CPA is looking it over once a year. They're not going to catch any sort of issues along those lines. They're going to catch tax issues. They're not going to catch if there's any fraud. And so it is a matter of having someone dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful service. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being with us today. We're going to take a short commercial break, and then we're going to come back and talk to Melanie a little bit more specifically about her business and how she got into it and how she's doing today. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Did you know there are more than 790 abused and neglected children currently in foster care in Montgomery County? Will you help make a difference? I'm Allie Stevens with Casa Child Advocates of Montgomery County. We train and support volunteers to be the voice of children in the foster care system. Kids removed from their home because of abuse and neglect. And we need volunteers just like you to advocate for these children. To learn more about becoming an advocate, please visit CASASpeaksForKids.com. That's CASASpeaksForKids.com.
Hello, I'm Bonita DeRosa, Animal Control Officer for the City of Willis. We invite you to tune in to Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 a.m. for the Willis Hour. On the first Thursday of the month, the Willis Hour will be covering upcoming events and news about the city. Join in the conversation with your city officials and other leaders in the community. On the third, we will be doing a recap of the last City Council meeting. The mission of the City of Willis is to provide high-quality services, accountability, and professional commitment to our citizens. We pledge to provide those who live, work, and visit our city an effective government that is open and responsive to the needs and values of the community. Again, we invite you to tune in on Lone Star Internet Radio every first and third Thursday of the month at 11 for the Willis Hour.
Hi, this is Erica Tullis, Executive Director of the Breast Cancer Charities of America. The Breast Cancer Charities of America is a national nonprofit organization with our headquarters in the Woodlands, Texas. We focus on non-invasive breast cancer research and helping the true patient that is going through breast cancer. Through our Help Now Fund, we help women pay the rent and utilities while going through their breast cancer treatment. It's unlike any other program that truly is out there. We are here to help the woman. Our phone number is 936-231-8460. For more information or to get involved or to even make a donation, please visit our website, www.igopink.org.
Welcome back to the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, the Silver Fox Advisor. In studio today with me is Melanie Bush, president of Better Bookkeepers, Inc. We've been talking a little bit about work-life balance and some tips. Melanie, let's talk about your business. Tell us in general what your firm does. Of course, we've touched on a couple things, and what kind of services it offers.
We are a day-to-day bookkeeping firm. We do not handle tax returns except for payroll and sales tax because those have to do with the day-to-day operations. But other than that, we run the gamut. It can be literally day-to-day service. It could be weekly services. We have a lot of clients that still do everything themselves and then after the fact want us to go in and put it into an accounting system so that they get their month-end profit and loss in their balance sheet. And it's really customizable, the bookkeeping side. We also offer individual training. We offer consulting for those that have their own bookkeeper. And then one cool thing that I really wanted to highlight is we're actually going to offer a QuickBooks class. And they'll be able to get into a file and work hands-on and not just a classroom setting, but actually get to work in the file with our training. So
Well,
I'm
that sounds like a great
that.
extension of your business.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a wonderful business story. You and I talked a little bit. Your website has lots of information. You've experienced what I consider tremendous growth in head count. We never talked about dollars, but your head count. Tell us a little bit about your personal business background and what brought you to where you are today.
My mom's an accountant. I started doing accounting for her at 14, working for her, and did not want to do this. I was determined I was not going to go into accounting, and found very quickly in college, I was working with the National Association of Women Business Owners as their admin, that there was a huge need for someone 4 hours a week or 2 hours a week to handle bookkeeping. And I had that skill set, so my junior year of college, I decided to start a business and started working with those women up in the Dallas area, and it grew from there. My husband's moved me twice with his job changes since then, and thankful for the internet, I kept clients from Dallas through both of those moves. The main one that stayed with me a long time eventually sold and is no longer a client, but it's been a lot of fun to see this grow from a one-woman shop working around college classes and then working around having a very young family into what it is today. So
Yeah, I think you mentioned you have, what, 10 or 11 bookkeepers?
we have
now?
11.
11 staff members and hiring and growing. And what do
Yes.
you attribute that growth to?
Montgomery County is a wonderful place to have a business, but I honestly attribute a lot of it to prayer and the Lord. It's been amazing to watch Him grow this business and prayerfully taking every step that we've done. So.
Well, it's amazing growth, and that's been in a 2 to 3 year period.
Since 2012, we were 2.5 people in July of 2012. Since then, we are now 11. It has been astronomical, growing roughly for the first 2 years, 1 a quarter. We've slowed down a little bit on that. That kind of growth is not sustainable long term and does wreak havoc on the work-life balance. But we are still growing and expect we'll probably grow between 2 and 3 this year.
What are your goals? I mean, as far as growth, like you say, it reaches a point that it's just overwhelming. It's got to be. I mean, with the work-life balance, among other things. Do you have any vision of where you want to see it be?
No. I'm waiting and see what happens. We had one staff member who actually moved back to Pennsylvania this year and is working for us remotely. She has some family up there and really needed to move back home and help. And so she didn't want to leave us. And with technology the way it is, she's able to continue to work for us. I have another staff member who's actually going to be moving to Austin this summer. And so we're hoping to work that into making a second office in the Austin area. So who knows where this goes, but we're just excited. It's been wonderful to hire wonderful ladies. Right now we are an all-female office, have not had very many male applicants at all, and bookkeeping tends to lend itself to moms and to ladies that are looking for something that can be flexible and work around their schedule, and it's been wonderful to see that come to fruition.
One of the things that you mentioned too in our discussions was that you have a hiring practice that has worked well for you. Do you mind sharing a little bit of that?
Not at all. Not at all. A lot of our staff has come to us from referrals. I have used a recruiter once before and am currently looking at using that again if I can't find somebody on my own. And we do an initial interview, but at the end of that interview, I have an accounting quiz that I've developed, and they take that quiz, and depending upon how they do on that, then they're eligible for the second interview. With the second interview, I went through Leadership Montgomery County, and we use the Hartman Value Profile that LMC puts every class through. And I found that to be a wonderful tool for seeing if the candidate would fit with the team. And then in the second interview, my manager and I both interview for the second interview. And so she's very good at asking the questions that I haven't already asked and being able to read me. We've worked together now almost 3 years, and so we're a good tag team on the interview process. So they go through me first, and then if they're good enough, then they have to go through her as well.
Well, I think what's important, what you tell me and what I learned early in my career is you got to, have a process.
Yes.
Because so many small businesses, just talk to the owner or talk to the admin person or whatever, and you look at the resume, but you've built a process. Mm-hmm. You have some outside testing. I was taught in formal training that testing's good for primarily confirming or raising a red flag, or it's in and of itself. And I've met people who hire off a test, and I always say, wait a minute, you've got to build your own skill set.
Agreed.
And then 3, you have 2 or more people talk to them.
Yeah.
2 opinions. I mean, I attended a formal class many, many years ago in Chicago. I'll never forget. And the guy said, if you do the hiring and only one person talks, you got a 60-70%. But if 2 people or more talk, it's 93-95% chance of success, assuming you've got a reasonable process.
There have been many times in which I've been impressed in the first interview, and then we'll come in and do a second interview, and she'll be there with me, and it's a totally different interview, and your impression of someone from the first interview gets completely switched when you add in that additional dynamic. And I think it's crucial that we have that, especially with how we operate. She really is my right hand in managing the workflow and managing the team. And so whoever we hire needs to be able to work with both of us.
Right. I think that's, it sounds like you're really doing it right. Obviously, you have great growth. As I told you, I was impressed with the background and the longevity of 10, 15 years of experience that you have. Deep bench of people when I look through the resumes on your website. Switch gears just for a minute. I mean, you're in a bookkeeping service.
Yes.
We've had some other people on here in Montgomery County, some really good folks that have bookkeeping services. Most of them, I think, are smaller. So obviously there's some competition out there. What do you do to differentiate or stand out in the crowd, if you will?
I don't feel that there's really competition in that there is so much business in Montgomery County that I don't feel like we're in competition with each other. I refer clients out to other bookkeepers regularly. I think what stands us out is that we are larger. You get two sets of eyes on any financials before they even go out the door to the client. My bookkeeper reviews them after she's finished the work, and then either my manager or I look at it, and we look for trends. We look to see what's happening over the past 6 months to see if something's changed drastically and to question it. And so that helps. Not only then you have your CPA review it. So you always have 3 sets of eyes on your financials. We work hand in hand with their CPA, whether that's someone that they've worked with for years or they're looking for someone else. And we're independent. We're not a part of a CPA practice. And so that's been a huge advantage for us, is that you're not getting someone that may be rubber stamping their own work, but the CPA is also a double check on us.
Right, which is wonderful. Again, the numbers have to be right, don't
Yes.
they? Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to put Melanie on the hot seat and ask some general business questions. So hopefully she can offer some advice that you can use. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
I'm Andrea Kolsky.
And I'm Heather Hall.
You may have heard of Justice Being Blind.
But what about being blonde?
In our show, Justice is Blonde, we talk about what's going on in Montgomery County at the courthouse behind the scenes.
Hey, Andrea, don't forget about Harris County, too.
And honestly, Heather, nationwide, we cover it all.
Airing every Friday at 11 a.m., you can send in your burning questions to our email, justicesblonde.lonestar@gmail.com.
Or they can look us up on Facebook at Justice is Blonde.
Or they could even call in to the station at 936-647-3776. Although we are discussing the law, we're trying to keep it fun, and we have some awesome guests.
So tune in Friday for some legal fun, laughter, and an hour with the Blantourage.
The largest flying museum in the world is the Commemorative Air Force, a national organization whose mission is to acquire, restore, fly, and educate the public about U.S. military aircraft and their role in U.S. history. Right here in Spring, Texas, the CAF owns an exceptional World War II warbird, the Flying Fortress Texas Raiders. Residing at David Wayne Hooks Airport and maintained by the Gulf Coast wing of the CAF, the Big Bomber is regularly opened to the public for tours and flights. The Gulf Coast Wing is a non-profit organization made up of volunteers who maintain, fly, and travel with Texas Raiders to promote the mission of the CAF. The Big Bomber has traveled all over the United States, reuniting veterans and the public with the historic World War II aircraft. Would you like to know more about taking a walkthrough tour or a ride in the iconic Flying Fortress? Perhaps you'd like to learn about volunteering to actually work with the crew on the aircraft. Go to www.b17texasraiders.org or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/B17TexasRaiders. Or to speak to us, call 1-855-FLY-A-B17.
Do you believe what happened on Nashville last week? Hi, this is Debbie Reynolds of Nash Trash on Lone Star Country Nights. Be sure to join Wayne Michaels and I Thursday at 7:30 p.m. on irlonestar.com for a recap. Will they? Won't they? Did they? So many questions, so much drama. Stay trashy, my friends.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor, welcoming you back to the third segment of today's weekly business hour. We've been talking to Melanie Bush, the president of Better Bookkeepers, learning about how important bookkeeping is and how Melanie's really grown her business at a fantastic clip. Now we're going to switch and talk about some general business challenges that a lot of business people have every day. And the first one, as I tend to lean towards, again, everybody knows I'm about planning. What kind of planning do you do in your business, Melanie?
Obviously, we have a budget. I'm a bookkeeper. We stop and do that. But we look at the budget with an analytical eye of where we're going in the next year and look at growth. Beyond that, we've put together what we call the BBK way. And that is our how to do everything and how to onboard a new client, how to handle bookkeeping for those that have had a previous bookkeeper or those that haven't, and how to handle end-of-year processes. And so we've put together over a 60-page document of this is how we do what we do.
So that's your playbook, so to speak.
It is. So,
you know, that's funny. That is a part of planning, and very, very few businesses I've found, at least small businesses. And I was reading an article years ago about a young man who started with one location, now has 15 or 20, and he said that's the one thing he regrets. When they asked him if he could start over, what would you do different? That was the one thing. I would have built a playbook, so as I brought new people in, I could hand them something to know how we do it.
So we have our handbook and all the standard employment, things that you would have. But this past November, December, and then we finalized it January 8th, we focused on that playbook and making sure that we had everything uniform. With how much growth we've had, there were a lot of questions. One bookkeeper doing one thing, another one doing it a different way, and both ways are acceptable. But which way did we want to do it as our way?
Right.
And so coming to, that ultimate decision, I think honestly it was the most painful on me because they sat me down in a room and were trying to get all the information from all of my time doing this out of my head. And that just drove me nuts. But it was, in the end, a wonderful process.
Well, and if you're growing like you're growing, and anyone that listens to this program, if you've got any kind of growth, you need this playbook.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the budget. Now, that's one thing that, again, you and I talked, a lot of really smart business people that start businesses, small businesses, just don't want to handle the accounting part of it. Do you encourage them to do a budget? I have found it very difficult.
It's very difficult to get them to do it. We encourage it, but small business owners just don't tend to do that. They're going by the seat of their pants, trying to make the business continue to grow or make it profitable or continue to grow their profits. So I think that's a crucial component because you can look at where you're spending and where you're probably overspending. All too often, we give them the financials, and a lot of small business owners, and I'm sure you've seen this, don't even really look at it to look for trends and what's going on and where they can possibly cut to make themselves more profitable.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. In fact, a quick fast story. I had a client that had a bookkeeping service in the greater Houston area, and they weren't getting their statements in a timely fashion because I would meet with them weekly and I'd say, well, let's go over the statements. We don't have them. So I had introduced them to a bookkeeper who had been introduced to me, bookkeeping service, excuse me. They had employees, and I contacted the lady that owned the service, and I said, we understood we get our statements by the 5th or the 10th, whatever it was. And she says, well, we normally don't do that. And I said, well, why not? She says, we found most of our clients don't even look at the statements. And I said, we've got a major problem then because we've got an exception here. We do look at the statements.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is very profound, and I would encourage everybody, if you can put a budget together. And I think one of the things that scares people when they look at a financial that you might produce or their CPA, and there's all this different information, a lot of that can be condensed, admin expenses, things, and it can become a one-pager or a half-pager, but at least know what you're planning to do.
Well, and we try really hard to kind of, especially with brand new businesses that don't already have a standard chart of accounts, we have our standard chart of accounts that has groupings so that we can condense that P&L to where it is on one page. And so all of your, operating expenses, all of your facilities expenses are one line item. So your rent, your utilities, everything goes in that one bucket. All of your office expenses goes in another, to where you can easily drill down if you need to or make it more broad.
Right. Well, I think that's important. And so what I'm saying to everybody, don't be afraid if you haven't do a budget. It's important that you do it. Just like the plan on the napkin that I always talk about. At least have a business plan, know where you're going, so you can do the right things. One of the things is, and you and I touched on this, Guess, and you've already said something, the secret to success in a business in general. Now, you gave a lot of credit to prayer, and that's obviously is an important part to many people, including myself. But from a business point of view, what has been the most important thing to you in building your business?
Hiring the right people.
Yeah.
hiring incredible team and making sure that I am slow in that process. I was explaining to the applicant this morning, I am slow to hire, and that's because I don't want to do anything that's going to screw it up. I've found anytime that I jump to hire someone, typically they're not the right person. And so taking my time with that process and making sure they fit the team is crucial. You can train almost anybody to do anything, but you can't train work ethic and you can't train personality.
Well, and I think you make an excellent point, and especially when you're in the type of business you're in a service business, and it really gets down to about 90% about the people.
Yes.
Versus making a product. But people are always important.
Yes.
And that having some kind of process that fits you and your industry is crucial. And as I shared with you, my dad taught me the square peg round hole. And I even explain it to the applicant. I say, look, I'm here to try to fit and see if you're a fit, because I don't want you to get involved and it doesn't work for you, because change will be a negative for you as well.
Agreed.
So I try to make it a win-win for each of us and maintain that attitude. And it'll be amazing. Sometimes I get a lot more honest answers and responses because that's the way I look at it. We're here to figure out if this is the right spot for both of us.
Exactly.
So I think that's very important, a good point. How do you market your business?
We do a lot with the chambers, with the Greater Conroe Chamber, with the Woodlands Chamber. We're also a member of Magnolia Parkway and a couple of other organizations. But a lot of it has been CPA referrals and business bankers, especially your loan officers that are looking to write a loan for a small business and they come in and they don't have good financials. We're involved in a lot of organizations between everybody in Better Bookkeepers. And so a lot of it is that face-to-face networking and getting to know people.
I need to ask you this question, and you brought it to mind. Where'd you come up with the name Better Bookkeepers? I like it. It fits.
I don't know that I actually remember precisely where I came up with it, but previously when I was a solo, I kind of went by the Bush group because it was me. There wasn't a group though. We were looking at names and just trying to come up with something, and I'm like, Better Bookkeepers. We're better than your other bookkeepers. And I've had clients joke in the past, you're not better bookkeepers, you're the best bookkeepers. I'm like, well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. But it's BBK has just kind of become our nickname for it, and it works very well. I don't know exactly who came up with it or when now.
Well, it really does. I mean, it sounds silly.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit the name, like, and you're laughing as you give the answer, but it rolls off the tongue. And if I was referring someone, here, contact Better Bookkeepers. So you're not happy with who you have? Here's Better Bookkeepers.
Exactly.
Wonderful name, and I think that's obviously important. I'm sure people have come to you, one, because of your success and the fact that your business too, as well as a lot of people come to you for services. If someone comes to you and says, gosh, Melanie, I'd like to start my own business, what's the one piece of advice you would give me about starting? Because you started a business. Of course, you had a background with starting in 14, working your way into it. You knew what you were getting into.
Yeah.
But if I was working for someone else and came to you and said, gosh, I want to experience being in a small business and start it, what's that one piece of major advice you would offer?
Plan for 3 years of harder times. I mean, honestly, it takes a while to grow the business. You need to plan to grow. You need to plan to have nothing in the beginning. Even if you think that you have clients that are going to come with you or something along those lines, you probably won't. And so you need to be prepared financially for that. You need to be prepared emotionally for that. It's a lot of work to start a new business, and it takes a lot of time, and it becomes your baby without a doubt. But it is worth every ounce you put into it.
Well, and I think your point about prepare for not really for the worst, but prepare the fact that, and a lot of folks, this is written about all the time, financially, they're not,
they're not prepared.
They're not prepared, and especially if they have a family of some, a wife, husband, and then whatever, communication with them, with the spouse, and say, hey, I'm going to jump off and do this. Some I've had on the show that seemingly were very prepared. They went through that initial hard time together, but they had the other income, in that case, working for them, chose to live on it.
And my husband and I are both entrepreneurs. He has his own law practice, and when he went out on his own, it scared the daylights out of me. I had always been on my own and been an entrepreneur ever since we got married, and so taking that leap of faith of him making his own business, that was the hardest thing. But getting through those lean times and the work that it required has just built us stronger.
Well, I'd find that pretty amazing. You've done it now. He wants to do it. Boy, I bet that was a great conversation.
Yeah, it was a very interesting conversation on that. It scares the daylights out of you.
Yeah, well, and I would think you'd be a good mentor, though, to help in the fact that you've experienced how to be on your own.
He jokes that he's my worst client.
There you go. There you go. Sounds like you all got it well figured out. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our final break for the day. Appreciate you joining us. And when we come back, we're going to really drill down, if you will, into the work-life balance. Melanie's got lots of other things she does besides Better Bookkeepers. So stay with us, and we'll talk with her on the other side.
Did you know there really was a place in Conroe where peer pressure doesn't exist and freedom takes on a whole new meaning? Bridgewood Farms is such a place. Here they offer their clients day services, vocational training, health and wellness programs, and social interaction activities for teens and adults with intellectual and developmental challenges. To help grow our programs, the community is being invited to come participate in the 7th annual wine tasting event called Around the World in 180 Minutes on April 11th at Main Street, America on I-45 in Spring. Enjoy a short travel through 18 regions of the world sampling fine wine. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Sponsorships are still available for as low as $350. Event passports sell fast. Don't miss the event that everyone is talking about. Get your passports for entry online today at bridgewoodfarms.org for just $75. With your help, we can be successful and continue to provide the best services for our special people.
Lone Star Internet Radio is now bringing you the weekly business hour show each Monday morning at 11 a.m. My name is Rick Schissler, and I will be your host. Each week, we will be bringing you local, area, and national business news that you can use. The program will also feature an interview with a local or national business person who will share their own experiences, successes, and failures in operating their businesses. Our show is for anyone who already owns a business, whether they work solo or have employees, and for those who are thinking about starting their own businesses. A bit of information about myself. Again, my name is Rick Schissler, and I am a Silver Fox advisor who has over 40 years' experience as a serial entrepreneur. As a part of our show, I will offer some advice and encouragement on our monthly topic, and I will take your questions by email at rschissler@silverfox.org or call into the station at 936-647-3776. See you on the radio Monday at 11 a.m. for the weekly business hour.
Howdy, Montgomery County. This is your personal invitation to join me and my friends Amber Adams, Maddie Dean, and Michael Player at the Texas Independence Music Festival. Join us for some great live country music Saturday, March 7th at the Sparkle Event Hall, 101 Metcalf in Conroe, Texas. We're performing for a great cause, the Cadence Hope Foundation. Cadence Hope supports parents with a premature baby hospitalized in the neonatal intensive care unit with free hotels and free gas cards, allowing mom and dad to personally care for their precious newborn. But we need your help, so join us Saturday, March 7th at the Sparkle Event Hall for the Texas Independence Music Festival and some great live country music. I'll be looking for you.
Welcome back to the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor. And our guest today, if you've been listening, if you just joined us, Melanie Bush, president of Better Bookkeepers, Inc. We've had, I think, a great conversation about business. Yes. Melanie has a wonderful business story. And Melanie, thank you for sharing that with us. We started off the show talking about work-life balance, and that's how we're going to end the show, but more talking about your experience. I mean, when someone looks at your resume, if you will, looks at your history, you're involved in a lot of outside activities. You've grown a business over the last 3 years, tremendous rate of growth by any yardstick out there. We were just talking about your husband went into his own business. You've got 2 young children, and you devote time to them, but you're also a trustee on the Conroe ISD. You're involved in other activities. I've got to hear how you do this. How do you achieve balance?
It is something Alan and I really work at. But to be honest, faith and family come first. I spent 2 days last week home with a sick kid because that's what comes first, faith and family. And I think we all struggle with this. Like I said earlier, working moms, non-working, stay-at-home moms, we all struggle with balance. And so Alan and I try really hard every Sunday night to sit down and look at our calendars and to plan out what we're doing that week and to see what needs we might have and where we can fill in gaps. A lot of mornings he'll go and work out and I can go to the office early. And then I, like I say, take 2 afternoons a week that it's a priority to me to get the girls. But it really is a matter of putting the big rocks, as we've all seen in all the demonstrations, and then the pebbles, and then the sand. And there's times in which things just don't get in there. I heard one lady once talk about, I am 100% mom, 100% wife, 100%, what she does in her work, and 100% this volunteer. I feel the same way, but I'm not 100% that at every moment of the day. And so there's always shifting priorities. And so it's really looking at that and seeking guidance on what you put first at the right time. Drawing those boundaries, unplugging when you need to unplug. My daughters and I are going to visit a friend in Canada this summer. And so for a week, I am not taking any technology that anyone can get in touch with me unless they have her number. And that's going to be, I'm so looking forward to that time with my girls because it's an opportunity I'll never get back. And so it's a matter of setting those priorities. Running the campaign with CISD definitely tested our boundaries of work-life balance because campaign, especially during early voting, you're out at the polls 12 hours a day, plus you're still trying to run the business, plus you still have, for us, a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. And a husband that, still needs attention and needs to have, you around occasionally. And it was definitely a challenge, but I think it made us so much stronger. Everything we do because we feel called to do it. And so really looking at something, letting your yes be a yes and saying no. And there are times in which you need to say no.
Well, that was my next question because I think that is one of the harder things. How do you say no? I mean, how difficult is it to say no? Because you and I both know, mm-hmm. and once you are out there are always people wanting you to help, to volunteer,
yes.
To do activities because you're out there, you're a leader now. How do you say no?
You really have to look at what it fits with what you're doing. There's certain things, with CISD, you can't go to every function. We have 60 schools. It is impossible for one person to go to every single function. But picking those functions that really mean the most to you. This Friday I'm going to read at one of the campuses, and that is something that I'm hugely passionate about. Picking your battles. Mentoring has been something that has been a key in my life for many, many years. So I'm involved in an organization that does mentoring. I've booked out my schedule for the entire school year for the first Wednesday of every month because I go and mentor at Conroe High through Executive Women's Alliance, and I would not trade that time for anything. But there comes a season, I've been doing this, this will be the end of my 4th year, that you can't keep doing that. And so we're looking at other organizations and other things that still have that same component, but am I going to take a step back from that? Yes. Because every organization, everything you're involved in has a season. And you've got to do it until you know you're not supposed to do it anymore. And then you need to step back because you've become that round peg in that square hole and somebody else would be better suited. And it's about helping to raise up those next generation to come behind you and to do the job that they're called to do.
Well, and I think I'd like to add this to it. Something I've found, is particularly as I've gotten older, is that I serve in a position or I volunteer, however you want to look at it, and then I have skills that I've developed. Mm-hmm. And I can take those skills somewhere else and work with perhaps mm-hmm. a smaller organization to help them mm-hmm. get to a certain point. And I'm in the process of doing that. It's very difficult to leave behind, but I feel called to go to another organization and help them hopefully get to a point where they're successful with the skills I have. And I think that's important. And the saying the no is something that a lot of folks don't think about. You always have everybody, ones that always say yes, yes. And my mother was that way. She's deeply involved at all levels in different kinds of organizations. She's very passionate about pre-K education when we were small children through the church, and because she didn't have a degree. And she ended up going all over the United States teaching in churches and to teach moms particularly and some dads how to teach in Sunday school and whatever. And she became, that was something that she ran the course, and then she got involved in different other things. But she's a great volunteer because she'll take tickets at the door, or she'll go on the stage and make a speech or whatever needs to be to move the thing forward. And I think a lot of folks to realize that, but I'm simply amazed, if I can say that. You and your husband sound like you've really put the plan together, and I'll go back to what you said about Sunday nights, is you have to sit down on a regular basis. Sunday night is a great time to do it, probably in a lot of households, but you communicate with one another. It's not just ships passing in the night, as many families are, but you have a regular schedule that you communicate. So
that started when Alan actually started his own business, and we really started to having to balance a little bit more because he was out networking and I was out networking, and we're both growing the businesses. One of the things that really started that was something our pastor said is we have female and male disclosures with each other. And so anytime he's going to lunch with somebody, another female by himself, he lets me know, because he's inevitably going to run into somebody who knows me and is going to say, oh, I saw Ellen at lunch with so-and-so, and he doesn't want that to be the first time I heard of it. And I do the same thing when I'm going to lunch alone with a guy, that he is aware of it before anybody else is. And so that's where it started, and then it grew into we're planning out our week and looking even 2 or 3 weeks ahead if we need to, and it's been wonderful for our marriage.
Yeah, well, I think it's obviously, if it's wonderful for your marriage, it's wonderful for your business.
Yes.
And so I really deeply appreciate you joining us today. You've got a lot of wisdom for someone so young, and you've got a great business, obviously, and it sounds like you've really put your life together. And I hope our audience has been able to. I thank you for listening today, that you would benefit from some of the wisdom that Melanie shared with us today. And Melanie, if someone needed a better bookkeeper, how would they get in touch with you?
They can go onto our website, which is www.bbk-tx.com, or they can give our office a call at 832-299-6712.
And repeat that phone number, would you?
832-299-6712.
And again, thank you for sharing some of your time with us this week and telling us about Better Bookkeepers.
Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you again for being with us. And Silver Foxes, thank you for serving as Houston's business and mentors and consultants for over 25 years and being part of our team here. And let's all work to have a successful week. And until next week, keep your dial right where it is on Montgomery County's community radio, irlonestar.com, coming to you from the heart of downtown Conroe. And as always, keep your eye on the Lone Star.